Welcome to the Cult Classic Horror Show. Every week, you can have the conversations you've always wanted to have about the films you love.
Shut up!
We're gonna get you. Not another peep.
Get rid of your distractions and prepare yourself.
Then lock your door. 5, 6, crucifix.
You got a big surprise coming to you. You're not going anywhere.
Welcome everybody to the Cult Classic Horror Show. Danny Bonin here with you.
Scotty Bonin here with you guys.
We are the Blood Brothers and
O'Neilio and
Carmelo Camara.
damn it, I still fucked it up.
No, you did good.
Yeah, it was good.
But not just us today, right, guys? Not just the four.
We have a special guest, Mr. Christopher Ellswick, on the line. Christopher, how's it going?
Going really good. Glad to be here.
Yeah. For those of you who are wondering why the fuck Christopher's on the podcast with us.
Well, because he's an awesome fan.
Well, he's awesome. He has his own show that they just started, but most of all, he was generous enough to pledge at the appropriate level on our Kickstarter campaign for She Walks the Woods. So, as I mentioned last episode, in the coming months, you will hear some guest appearances on the podcast from people that supported us. So that was one of the rewards they get. And once again, I already said it before we started, but thanks again, Christopher, for supporting us and doing that for us.
Oh, yeah, no problem at all. I can't wait to see it.
Hell yeah, man.
Hell yeah.
We got a 5-some
Thank
here
you.
tonight. This is great.
5-some.
I know
Yes.
it's gone from a foursome to a full-on orgy, thanks to Christopher.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
Hell yeah, man. Thanks for your support. As always.
We're going to practice the art of not talking over each other with 5 people. I don't know how it's going to work, but we'll see how it goes.
We'll do it.
Poorly. Poorly. It's going to work poorly.
Before we jump into this, since we have a new element and an extra person, just before we go into our normal flow of things, and Christopher hopefully won't get just talked over, I want to. Christopher wanted to do this film specifically, and is a fan of the Scream series. We're
doing Scream?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Scream. 1996.
Scream, 1996.
Hell yes.
So Christopher, tell us, do you have a history with Scream? Is this like your first horror movie, or why is Scream so special to you?
It wasn't my first. The first was Friday 13th Part 5 and then Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3. But this film came out when I was 9 years old when I first saw it. And then after that, I saw the second one. I went to theaters and saw it with my grandparents. So it kind of holds a special place.
Are you a fan of the whole franchise, or mainly just the first film?
The whole franchise. The fourth one, it's not as good, but I still like them all.
Yeah.
Definitely, man. Yeah, this was a favorite of ours too, Danny and I, and we grew up watching this.
I remember the previews, so
yeah.
I was probably, I don't know how old when it. What year was this?
This
again?
was 96. So
I was 11.
We were 11 years old. Yeah.
So I remember seeing the previews, and then my wife actually, she watched it with me the first time she's watched. I don't even remember the last time she's watched a movie with me for a horror movie anyways, and
for the show.
It's because it was so, she remembers being in middle school and loving this movie as well. I think this was a movie that broke audiences into horror. It was
it
was multi-genre. Yeah.
Especially
Yeah.
Especially the ladies, like, there's I think it drew a lot more like female fans too.
Yeah.
It was all over.
Right, though, because it's my wife's favorite horror movie, and when I told her I wanted to watch it with commentary, she was over the moon. She wanted to put the second one on immediately after. So I think you're right, Scotty.
Yeah, I actually read a thing about that too. So
Rob, opening thoughts.
There's stats.
Opening thoughts on Scream, Rob.
There we go.
There we go.
Hang on, I'm strapping in.
I've never been a fan of Scream.
Or any horror movie.
No, Army of Darkness is a good horror movie. I don't know. I remember when it came out. I watched it. I was 10 or 11. Until we started doing this, I never watched a single sequel. I had never seen Scream 2 or 3 or 4 or any of them. I'm not really a Wes Craven fan either. So it just doesn't work for me very well. I think what they try to do with Scream is what Cabin in the Woods actually accomplished. When it comes to all the inside jokes and all the tropes and everything else, Scream's a miss for me. Not a big fan of Scream.
All right, Danny, what are your thoughts?
But my wife loves Scream. My wife was all about watching Scream.
How does she have
love it,
such
man.
good taste in movies and
My
such
wife
bad
loves it too.
taste in men?
I don't know.
I figured out our problem for too many people. Why don't we just cut Rob's mic? Let's do
that.
He can have his own opinion. He's entitled.
I thought we already had my opening thoughts with, seeing previews of it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, I guess my opening thoughts. I mean, we grew up watching it. I think we saw. I don't know if I saw the first one in theaters, but I think I saw the second and third one in theaters. And we used to make. I think we already talked about this. We made little movies in our basement with Ghostface. We bought the whole costume and with our friends and had the whole camcorder and stuff. And I remember my girlfriend, was in it, and she got killed while we were making out. And so yeah, I mean, it was a whole thing. Everyone at school had the Ghostface mask, and so it was huge. It was big time.
These were horrible films that my buddy had a camcorder, and we just went for it. And I distinctly remember trying to time. So I was sitting there with a boombox, and we had this metal song that we liked, and it had a kick in, and we had to get the kick in right when the killer opened the door and swung the knife. Yeah. And so it took about 12 takes for me to hit play at the right moment, and it was an experience. They were horrible movies.
But we had the Ghostface mask. We had the whole black cloak and everything, and it was
homemade Scream movies.
It was all inspired because of the Scream. So I like the movie. I grew up as a fan. It still holds a good place in my heart.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well,
and Carmelo already told us what he thought about it.
Yeah,
right?
let's jump into Carmelo. Give us, for those of you living under a rock, Carmelo will give you the rundown of Scream.
Yeah, this is going to come in handy for the sequels that I'm sure Rob is not going to watch.
No. I watched all 4.
Yeah, he watched them all
over with this weekend like a Band-Aid.
Good man.
I got all the notes written down. I am free for the next month.
Good
to watch
man.
What I want to watch.
All right. Well then, for those of you who haven't seen Scream, or if you haven't seen it in a while and want to refresh your memory, just a quick plot summary so you can follow along with us. Scream opens with a very famous sequence where you think Drew Barrymore is going to end up being the main character in the movie, but she's killed off in the beginning, and they kind of use that star power against you. And that's the beginning of how this movie is very meta, and it uses your expectations against you. What follows is a very self-aware slasher movie about a girl named Sidney Prescott, whose mother was murdered before the movie starts. But now there's a new killer on the loose, and the killer has a penchant for calling his victims. And it turns into a whodunit, but whoever it is has a personal vendetta against Sidney. And at first she thinks it's her boyfriend. He's arrested but then cleared. It could be the town expert on horror movies who takes the time to explain the rules to everybody. And Sidney has a sort of rivalry with a reporter played by Courtney Cox, who is writing a book about the murder of Sidney's mother. She believes that Sidney fingered the wrong guy at trial and that the real killer is out there, which, of course, we learn is the case. And the killer who stalks these teenagers is one and the same who murdered Sidney's mother. In the climax, the killer attacks a party of the teenagers, and Sidney discovers that it is not only her boyfriend who is the killer, but also his accomplice, Stu, who is involved, and she's able to overcome them both. And, they live happily ever after till Scream 2, the end.
Yes. Yeah,
Sweet.
That's good. That sums her up. All right.
Rob's rundown.
Let's hear it.
Okay. I have an entire legal pad. So this is legally binding, as Carmelo is an attorney. Anything written on yellow legal paper.
100% true.
Okay.
Please enlighten us.
Okay. From, I guess, the co-writer of Scream, I'm not going to say Wes
Spring.
Craven, but from the writer that brought us Dawson's Creek, I Know What You Did Last Summer, and Teaching Mrs. Tingle, we have Scream 1996. In Scream 1996, we have Sidney Prescott looking surprised and confused by doors, phones, David Arquette, Rose McGowan, Skeet Ulrich, moths, windows, couches, TVs, and pretty much anything that crosses her path or makes a noise. We also have the poor man's Johnny Depp. We have references to horror movies so that we know that the writers know that there are other horror movies. We have no boobs. We have Skechers. We have V-necked rib sweaters. We have cell phones. Just randomly. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. A computer that AOL instant messages 911. We have Drew Barrymore looking every bit of 45 years old trying to play a 17-year-old high school student. We have great lines like, "I'm sorry my traumatized life is an inconvenience to you, Billy." We have Death by Garage Door, Knife, Gun, and TV. We have a Your Mommy Caused My Mommy to Leave Town murder plot. We have the worst sex scene ever. We have hypnotizing Cheetos. And that pretty much sums up the most meta horror movie within a horror movie that knows about other horror movies since New Nightmare, which was filmed 1 year prior to this. And
Whoa. Prior to this? Was it?
Yeah, New Nightmare. No, New Nightmare was 94, wasn't it?
Was it? Okay. All right. I don't know.
Yeah,
probably was.
Yeah, and for Ty and Draco, the gun of the movie is a Beretta 92 FS 9mm. So that's my list.
Nice. I love
Rob
it.
is right. 1994.
Yes.
Good job, Rob.
Good job. Wow.
See, I know how to work Wikipedia.
I didn't think New Nightmare
we
was
have the
that
internet
old.
in Florida.
Well, you might not have it soon, but cross your
No, the
fingers.
storm's gone. We didn't even get hit.
Oh, good. Good.
It's heading to the Carolinas.
I was praying for you.
It's heading toward. Is where you're at on the near the ocean, Christopher?
No, it's Central Virginia, about an hour and a half.
All right.
So aren't you, doesn't James Blankenship live in Virginia too?
Yes, he does.
Yes.
He lives 20 minutes away from me.
Holy crap.
Oh,
that's
cool.
awesome. Nice.
Oh.
Yeah, we've been friends for a few years now.
Nice.
Oh, sweet.
Let the hand
Did you
jobs
introduce
ensue.
him? Yeah, let the hand
Yes,
jump.
I brought him into CC8.
Yes. Awesome, man. He's a good guy. Anyways.
But, I also have a rundown.
Oh, let's hear it.
Oh,
All right, let's hear the rundown.
A little more positive, huh? I know.
All right, we have Casey answering a question from the killer wrong, getting her boyfriend Steve killed. We have a group of high school friends. We have the Fonz. We have Sid the Super Bitch. We have the introduction of Cotton Weary. We have a janitor dressed up as Freddy Krueger. We have a party with a great opening song, Youth of America. We have a young cop working with a news reporter. We have hard nips and a garage. Ooh. We have an implied sex scene. We have the rules to successfully surviving a horror film. We have Halloween playing while a cop searches the house. We have Stu killed by a TV, and Billy shot in the head.
Nice.
Nicely. Very nice rundown sum up.
All right, double rundown day.
Love
double
it.
DD. Double
So
D.
should we dive into our notes then for this thing?
Let's just
Well, those were the only notes I had.
yeah, we can
And they took him all week to prepare.
just dive on in like it's a muff.
Let's get into the
The
nitty
only
gritty.
reason why Danny likes my totals and rundown is because it's some kind of insurance that I'll actually watch the movie.
That's pretty much correct.
Hell yes.
Nice change of pace there.
Yes, exactly. See, now you have to watch the movie because you're obligated to do your rundown for every
All right.
episode.
Well, I'm just I'm going to jump in. So many notes.
There's a
on
lot
this,
for this.
and I'm just going to zip and zip, and zip. But you guys can cut me off.
We'll
of
zip
course.
too.
Okay, here we go. So they actually filmed this in a brand new house. It looks old, but it's not. It's only about 3 years old at the time of filming, on a beautiful 30-acre vineyard in wine country in Northern California. I'll skip ahead because I'm not going to exactly. I'll talk a little bit about the location now. They tried to use Santa Rosa High School, but the high school said no due to script content. What it really came down to was 5 snooty fucking board members who wouldn't let them film. The whole community was behind them. The high school students were signing some kind of petition to allow them to film, and it was basically the school board saying, ew, we don't want that kind of thing associated with our high school. It was specifically I know you like that, Carmelo. I know you like my impressions there.
They ended up filming in an elementary school.
Yeah, that's right. And I read too that they filmed some in a community center as well. That
it was the same. The community center is a former elementary school, and that's why it had a school look to it.
Okay, that makes sense. Still in Santa Rosa,
but no parents in the way.
Get those parents out of here.
Yeah, and it was specifically Wes Craven said the scene where they're around the fountain discussing Casey's murder that the school didn't like. It was also the quote-unquote foul-mouthed principal, the Fonz, because no principal would ever call their kids little shits.
I love Henry Winkler.
And that leads to, even though we're getting ahead of ourselves, that leads to the end of the movie, which has what might be the only non-thank you in any movie credits. The very end of the credits to Scream say, no thanks at all to the school board of whatever Bufu town it was.
Yeah, that's right. Craven wanted to put that in there.
Didn't even realize it said that. Wow.
And then did the school think it was going to be a comedy at first, and that's why the reason they took it, and then they saw the horror was involved, and like, nope, we can't do it.
Yeah, I think everybody thought it was a comedy, right?
Yeah.
We heard a lot of directors thought it was a comedy, and that's why they went through a lot before they got to Wes Craven.
Yeah,
Bob Weinstein was a huge proponent of this script, but first, before it got to him, the script was sold in a huge bidding war. It sold in like a weekend. Bob Weinstein took it on and was passionate about it and went through many directors, and each director kept coming back, saying, oh, I see this is sort of has a comedy feel to it, this horror comedy. And he said, no, this is a scary movie. And he, the writer, Kevin Williamson, he just said, right, Kevin, it's a scary movie. Kevin's like, yeah, it's a scary movie. And so they eventually got Wes to do it and get on board with the vision. In fact, the original title of the script was Scary Movie.
Scary Movie.
Which is sort of funny because, they made Scary Movie to parody all those scary movies. And I think they stole it. Parody Scream a lot. So.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyways, huge bidding war. Talked about that. The line in the beginning where she says, she's talking about horror movies, and she says, "Oh, only the first Nightmare on Elm Street's good. All the rest of them sucked."
Yeah.
And then Wes Craven had to be reminded that he made Nightmare on Elm Street 7, and he might have wrote or produced Part 3, I think.
Yeah, he did say he was going to take that line out of there, and then remembered that he wrote 7 and figured, I'm safe then. I'm making.
But the other ones he sold off and didn't care about. So.
Yeah, they did bring him in for Nightmare 3.
Did they? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Just as a producer?
I believe he was the director.
Did he direct 3?
No. No,
I don't think he directed.
No, he didn't direct. He did help with the film, though. Probably producer.
Okay. Writer Kevin.
So how good is that opening scene? Can we talk about this for a second?
I love the opening.
Yeah.
It's like famous for it.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, you think that Drew Barrymore's going to be a long-living, long-lasting role, and then
you are so relieved at her being murdered.
I won't argue with that point. I won't really argue with that one.
She's looking good.
Yeah.
Drew Barrymore's a
opening
national treasure.
No.
Yeah, the opening scene took 5 days to film.
5 days.
Yeah, that's right.
Well,
just
because it's Drew
scene.
Barrymore. It took 5 days just to get her to remember her lines and shoot a minute 40 worth of film.
She kept giggling.
We're
going to
film our entire next movie in 14 days. So.
Yeah, that's true.
Originally, she was going to play Sydney, but then she figured she wanted to do. She suggested that she played Casey, So she, so it would just flip the script, and everyone would be freaked out that she died.
Yeah, killing off a big star first.
Yeah, so she suggested to the producers that no, I'll turn that part down, but I should play Casey. So then it'll really grip people and bring them into the
writer
to the rest of the movie.
The writer said right off the bat that he wanted a name in that role just for the shock factor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what happened.
Which is interesting because the writer and Craven both compared it to like Hitchcockian. They said they wanted that opening to be, and that's exactly what happens in Psycho, right? As Janet Leigh is killed off, and she's sort of the biggest star in that movie.
Yeah, yeah. Cool. I'll just keep plowing, the shit out of this.
We all want to watch Danny plow something.
Yes.
Roger Jackson did the killer voice, so it wasn't really Skeet Ulrich or Matthew Lillard with a voice box. They had hired a voice actor. It took them weeks, months to find the right guy, and Wes Craven really thought he did a good job. I mean, I think he did too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sounding evil but not over the top or comical, and I think it worked. So.
What's your favorite horror movie?
Drew never did meet Roger in person before recording that scene or filming that scene. He was outside, standing in the rain, talking on a cell phone to her during filming, and they just thought it would have a better effect if she didn't know what he looked like.
Neither did Neve Campbell, too.
On Drew Barrymore for a second, a note I liked was about her performance. She told Wes Craven before the movie, before they filmed, that she had seen something in the news about someone who had abused their dog, had lit their dog on fire and killed their dog. And she had burst into tears telling this story to Wes Craven. So when they were filming, whenever he wanted to like push her over the edge of hysteria, he would say to her, "Drew, I'm lighting the lighter." And that just freaked her out.
So the guy that plays Kevin, the boyfriend who's outside, he was actually sort of the last runner-up to play Billy, and didn't get it, I guess. Skeet Ulrich's just looks and
so much sexier.
Chiseled, thin, tie-like arms were just too much.
Hey, he looks like the asshole boyfriend.
His Johnny Depp, just a little bit of greasy hair in his face.
That's actually why Craven liked him, because he had that Johnny Depp look, even from like Nightmare on.
Craven, he does say that it was not in the commentary he said it was not intentional to make him look like Johnny Depp or to give a tip of the hat to Nightmare on Elm Street. He said that was not intentional at all. He just liked Skeet Ulrich for the part.
He had the good look, and I think he liked him from The Craft too, along with Neve Campbell. He liked her performance from The Craft and Party of Five, of course.
So
Party of Five was great.
Oh yeah.
So you have Kevin, the boyfriend, outside, final contender for Billy, and then the MPAA heavily cut this entire film. But and we'll probably revisit this happenstance a few times throughout this episode. But this was one of the first times where they cut the entrails out. So obviously we see him, we don't see him, we come back to him. He's already been eviscerated. I assume that they actually showed him being eviscerated and then had to have that cut out.
Mm-hmm.
My wife swore that she saw a copy where he gets eviscerated. I don't think I have it on Blu-ray. Has anybody seen this version of this, like an extended something?
I have. No, your wife's crazy.
No, they had to cut a lot of that out. I don't think they even put out like an unrated edition.
Yeah, I think even more was cut out until Craven came in and like added it back in, and like no, we need to add these back in and stuff. So he kind of took the helm there.
They also, I'll have another one in a second here, but as far as this, this is the first time we see the killer, but he's in a costume, the ghost face costume. The writer had put in there that he wanted a mask, but didn't think about anything else. Was like, Wes was saying, hey, what else is he wearing? Because we can't see the same hands, the same clothes, the same appendages every single time. And Kevin Williamson's just like, oh, that's you guys' problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've already sold my script.
Yeah.
You know that he was like down on his luck, and he was like broke, and then he was just trying to shop the script around, and finally that's how he kind of got out of bad luck and got his stardom, was this script. So Kevin Williamson owes it all.
I think that's what this did to a few people.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Skeet Ulrich and Nev Campbell were in things previous. I know that Matthew Lillard had done some stuff, and same with Courtney Cox. When I think back to those actors
Friends,
and people, I know. But when I don't watch Friends, I'm the only one in the U.S.
but yeah, I mean,
so
but like bigger movie.
When you mention any of those actors' names, including David Arquette, I immediately think of Scream. Just immediately. Any of this lead cast, when you mention their names, I immediately think of them. Of course, more recently, I think of Bone Tomahawk when you mention David Arquette. But bit apart.
He's done a lot since, but yeah.
Yeah, so anyways, the ghost costume, speaking of the costume, it's obviously just your typical black ghost face costume. It was going to be white for the longest time. They thought, oh, the face is white, it's a ghost, it should be white. And last minute, they sort of made that change to where it's black. And yeah, just pick this mask that was obviously readily available at any Spirit Halloween store across the nation.
Yeah, it was called like Funhouse was the company that made it, and Craven saw it on like another set or something, or in like a warehouse, and wanted that mask, and they tried to recreate it, but it didn't get recreated the way that he wanted it, so they finally got the rights to the mask from that company. Because I know, wasn't K&B Effects on this too?
Yeah.
So they didn't recreate it the way that he wanted it, and it's just a Spirit Halloween mask. It's I think Funhouse is the one that made it. That's what the company's name is.
Yeah, and the producers actually hated the mask until after they watched the first opening scene with Drew Barrymore, and then decided to keep it.
Yeah, like, okay. We like it.
I heard that originally he was supposed to be dressed in white, which I feel like he would have looked like a Klansman.
Yeah.
That
and a lot of blood splattered all over it.
That's true. Yeah, it would have got messed. That would have been interesting, though. I think that would have been a cool take to see him get bloodier and bloodier as the movie went along. Yeah, it would have been cool. Another hit here from the MPAA when he runs down Drew Barrymore and reaches around and stabs her in the chest, which is pretty iconic, I think, and an awesome sequence. They wanted that gone and cut out too, and Wes Craven just said, "Oh, that's the only take I did," which he said is a bold-faced lie, but they left it in, so it worked. Then also, just in the commentary, you guys probably heard this too. The writer was talking over it, so I didn't catch what line it was, but he said, "Oh, there's the Halloween quote-unquote Mackenzie line." That the parent says. What line is that? Anyone know?
Go down to the Mackenzies and call the police.
Oh, okay. Was Mackenzie's in
that was
Halloween?
Used
was that the neighbors?
Yeah, that was Strode's neighbor in the original Halloween too.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's and that same line was said. Yeah,
well, that brings us to the hanging then too of Drew Barrymore, which was also drastically cut. It was sped up, as you can tell. Ton of frames cut from it, and Wes Craven was not happy about that.
Do you guys think it made it look cool? Because sometimes I have this theory that sometimes being constrained forces you to be more creative, and I thought it was a very jarring and disjointed opening. It was cool.
I thought the shot was actually probably the scariest shot in the whole movie, and I thought it was cool.
I did too.
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, it was a very cool scene. His lie had to be cut out and not as. It's still gory, but you just couldn't see as much as you would have.
Yeah.
The zoom in really, zoom boom. There was no boom.
So I have a note on this is something that actually scares me in movies is when the horror is sad, because, we watch Friday the 13th, and it's kind of fun to watch these stupid kids who have it coming get killed. And it's always kind of over the top. It doesn't feel real in any meaningful way. Mm-hmm. But, watching her die was awful, or she gets stabbed in the lungs and she's screaming for help and her parents are right there, but she can't scream. Right. And she can't scream because she's got a hole in her lung. And then, that's horrible. Right. And that's what murder would really be like, is it would be sad and awful. And that stuff gets to me. So I don't know if that bothers anybody else, but to me, that's what makes us different.
I mean, to me, I was I really wanted her to get to her parents, and it's you feel so much for her at that point. So, yeah, it definitely got to me, too.
Yeah, she couldn't scream because the killer had strangled her so bad it really messed up her voice.
It bothers me more now that I have children. A lot of that stuff does.
Yeah.
That's one thing no one warned me of when I had kids. Everyone else is giving me the useless information, like, oh, your entire life's going to change. All your goals are going to be end, and it's going to be moot, and you're not going to be doing anything. And I'm like, fuck you. But then someone should have said, when you watch the remake of Hills Have Eyes and they steal the baby, that I'm just going to want to kill motherfuckers right away.
Oh, yeah. Baby and same goes when they're middle-aged, like Drew Barrymore in this.
Yeah, it wasn't as bad in this, but it was like, God, what did I just watched something where they, like, killed the kid or the kid dies. I don't know. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh. Hell yeah.
She had it coming to her because she didn't take the damn popcorn off the damn stove, and she just kept looking at it, and it just kept popping. She kept looking at it. I guess that made for the effect of the mom coming in and the whole kitchen being smoky.
The popcorn on the stove and then a death happening in a garage, those were homages to Halloween because both happened in the first Halloween.
Yeah.
As we know, because what's-her-name is cooking popcorn, spills a tablespoon of grease, and has to strip naked.
It's like the movie for that Wes Carpenter guy. Yeah. Some great lines in this.
There really are.
That's obviously an homage to John Carpenter, Wes Craven.
A lot of homages in this movie.
Yeah, they pay a lot of respect to other films.
Yeah.
Hey, it's called tact, you fuck rag.
So I have a discussion question on that related to that point. They mention in there that like every one of these characters is kind of selfish in their own way, and in the commentary, that is to say, and it got me thinking, are there any characters in fiction that are non-selfish? Like, can you really have a character without a motive that services them, even if they're like a good guy and wants to help people? Are most fiction characters, like, do you have to give them a selfish motive in order for them to be believable?
No, I don't think so. I mean, like, that's what the argument was. Was there a motive for these guys to kill? Would it be scarier with one, or would it be scarier without one? I guess the motive for Skeet Ulrich, was that his mother, or his dad left his mom, or was it his mom left his dad? Whatever it was, because of Sydney's mom, and then I guess Stu it was peer pressure. So
I think that to answer your question, that it's not interesting if even your heroine isn't a bit selfish. And what I think happens most of the time in these movies, not just horror movies but any movie, is that the protagonist is not consciously selfish. Like they're maybe being humble about things or whatever, and then our drive or our reason to watch the movie and to love the movie is that, like, we want whatever they subconsciously want to happen, and so, but they're not hitting it headstrong like we would in real life, like, no, I want this is mine. They're just, you can just tell that that's like what they're veering towards, and we're cheering that on. I don't know if that makes any sense. I just made
actually it does. Yeah, I get you.
So
motives are incidental. The millennium, I mean, be anything.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They built the next house, still talking about Sydney's house. We said that's the one that was only a few years old, beautiful, sprawling home on a 30-acre vineyard. They did have to build a wall and a closet to create that sort of closet door opening to then keep the bedroom door shut. That was a major thing that Kevin Williamson wrote in his script, and Wes Craven wanted to keep in there. And I do like it because, they utilize it, obviously, when Sydney doesn't get killed, when she was about to. The lock doesn't hold, and then the door holds it shut. But other than two parts like that, it's not really necessary. But I guess you can get away with that when you have money for a film.
Yeah.
Because that'd be the first thing. Yeah, go ahead.
About that point is, I have a note here. Do they mean to kill her in that scene? Because so Stu and presumably Billy are there together, and they're chasing her around, and she gets away, and then Billy immediately gets arrested, which may or may not be part of his plan, which I guess is my second question. So are they trying to kill her, or is that not yet are they not yet at the end game? Are they just trying to mess with her, establish an alibi for Billy, so he's officially cleared, and then they're going to come back around. And
I think that's the case. I think they want to establish an alibi so he's cleared, and he has nothing to do with it, while Stu is the one, I'm assuming, is dressed up as the Ghostface at that point. But just scaring her. Then she testifies, like, no, it wasn't. It can't be Skeet. But then he fucks himself.
I sort of assumed that they missed the kill on this one. I'm not like in strong belief, but I'm sort of leaning towards the opposite. Like I watched it the second time during commentary, and I'm like, oh yeah, that door, they were going to kill her this time.
Seems like they're really trying to kill her for sure.
So well, which one do you think it is?
I don't, but I think it's the scaring. It's just like almost killing her. It's just to scare her. Though.
Okay.
Well, Chris, this is your pick. What do you think, Chris? Are they trying to kill Sydney at this point, or is this?
I think they're really like he already knew about the door that he was not going to be able to get into her room. So I think they're more just trying to scare her.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah, I tend to lean that way, but to Danny's point about them trying to kill her, I feel like. He does look like he's going to go in for the kill with the stab at one point. And he does, at this point, the father would already be in there. They'd already have him because presumably they grabbed the father before he even leaves town, right? Because they always plan to frame Sydney's dad. So to Danny's point, even though I tend to agree with Scotty and Christopher here, Danny's right. They certainly could have just ended it right here.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
Sweet Christmas.
Speaking of
my ears,
ending my hearing.
That was a superb acting job by Christopher.
Son of a gun.
That means it's time for the horror halftime. For those of you who are first-time listeners, the horror halftime is our intermission, so to speak, of the Cult Classic Horror Show, where we award the Horror Freak of the Week, who will win merchandise from us from memes they posted in our group. I'm still working on this, Carmelo. I'm still working on this.
Oh, you're good. Keep going.
Okay, so in order to become Horror Freak of the Week, you need to post a meme that has to do with last week's episode somewhere on social media and tag at Cult Classic Horror, at CC Horror on Twitter, and use the hashtag Horror Halftime. And if we like your meme the best, you will be named the Horror Freak of the Week.
Crowned.
Crowned.
Yes. So you need to post a meme from Scream in order to win.
Next week.
Yes.
Oh my God. There were some really, really, really good ones.
So many participants for New York Ripper.
Patrick Rufa just went off the wall, just posting some of the most hilarious memes I've seen. And I know that we were taking this like no rules approach to awarding the horror halftime, but I am gonna say I'm not gonna award it to the same person 2 weeks in a row because Patrick did win last week. I will say personally, my favorite meme was Patrick's the quacker instead of the shocker in the hands.
So good.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, but so I'm gonna have to go with a couple of my.
There's a lot of other good ones though too.
I have to go with my close second favorite. So the horror freak of the week is Freddie Torres.
FT.
Freddie Torres.
All right.
Is this for the Gerard Butler?
No,
meme?
this is actually for. I've been loving the memes he keeps posting. Not necessarily always having to do with CCH. With the SpongeBob going, I'm out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was the one where the killer's like quack, and Rob is, I'm a head out.
And he has a White Claw in his
has a White Claw.
superimposed hand.
I hope all of you at home will join in the fun. Join us on Facebook or Twitter, Instagram. Post your memes about Scream or about this episode.
Yep.
Or about Rob. The Rob ones are very popular.
Yes. So please post your meme. Freddie, just shoot me a message. I'll get you something sent out. Probably sent you a shirt this last time you won, so I'll get you some stickers or something. But yes, shoot me a message, and then you guys make sure you participate so you can be next week's Horror Freak of the Week.
Yes.
I think that's all of our announcements. Our pre-order store is closed up. That's it, right, Carmelo?
Yeah, I guess stay tuned because hopefully this time next week we'll be announcing some big changes to our Patreon. A lot more interactivity available for people. So if you enjoy the show for a long time or you're just listening for the first time and you think it could be fun to participate, stay tuned for that announcement.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that concludes the Horror Halftime. Ma. All right, moving on. Here we go. I already said that Johnny Depp lookalike wasn't intentional. We have another repeat shot here. We talked about the same shot in the house episode. The opening shot. No, I shouldn't say opening because we're past the opening now, the shock opening. We move into the town, the high school. We have the big crane shot that comes down over the reporters, and you see the entire student body entering school. Once again, you have a guy operating a Steadicam standing on a crane. The crane shot comes down. He walks off the crane and then continues with the walking around shot, which was a big undertaking. And we just talked about that in the House movie, right, where he did the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I thought that was interesting. I don't know if they noted that and took that technique or what.
It's probably a little bit easier for them to pull it off for this one, but still, it takes a lot to get. And they probably saw it like, oh, that's a cool shot, and which I think it is a cool shot. You see the whole view of all the kids coming into school.
I will admit, on first watch, I didn't even realize this till the commentary, that we have like 2 Linda Blair cameos.
Oh yeah, she's one of the reporters.
I didn't even realize that.
And Billy, the first time he sneaks into Sydney's room, says, "I was just watching the Exorcist," and da-da-da. So, and then obviously we see Linda Blair right after that. So, little homage there too.
I gotta tell you, Rob, she's not looking too good in those cameos.
Who? Linda Blair?
Yeah.
Well, she's older now.
Did Rob check out? Did he turn his mic off? Is that what's going on here?
I turned his mic off.
I'm right here.
Oh, he was just.
Oh, there he is.
He was just sleeping.
No, I'm wide awake.
You didn't have anything to say about Linda Blair?
Well, I mean, everything I've said about Linda Blair is already on record.
Oh,
yeah. Touche.
I did not notice her in this movie, though.
See, you didn't either.
I didn't notice her until I had to rewind back and see again because I thought I saw her.
I mean, I've watched this thing multiple times. I've never noticed Linda Blair. I mean, did she have any lines, or was she just in the background?
Yeah, she's a reporter. She's the one that says, well, at one point she's haggling Sydney for some answers. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, it was
what she says.
It was the first time she walks out of the school or something after the murder. After she gets almost murdered.
I think Linda Blair had a streak of good looks from the time they started filming Exorcist 2 to when they wrapped.
I don't know.
Yeah,
she's. I don't know. Again, because I didn't notice her in this movie. Maybe the 90s were unkind to her, but I thought she was pretty bomb in the 80s.
Well,
she was.
That's what I guess we all know what the after effects of too much lip gloss are.
Yes. And just caked on makeup from Reagan. Still just caked on.
It is a slippery slope. I mean, the one thing I will say about Scream, that it's not Scream's fault, but I'm just not a fan of the 90s. I don't like the lime green Skechers. I don't like the short sleeve under long sleeve under short sleeve. I don't understand the greasy Leonardo DiCaprio, Johnny Depp hair, the puka shells, the ribbed, and the girls' clothes are awful.
They're bad.
Except for Rose,
big sweaters that don't fit.
Except for Rose McGowan and like her white, her nips and her white plastic go-go boots and skirt. I mean, besides that, I can't really get behind this
Christopher,
movie.
would you set this fool straight, please?
90s were the best.
Me. Danny agrees with me.
Hey, I gotta put something straight. I don't like the clothing and all this, but late 90s is when I love them crop tops.
Late 90s is where it's at.
I like that stomach
but we didn't
showing.
get any of those.
We didn't.
Get
this
any
was
of
mid
those.
90s.
This is mid.
90s. You're just getting over the 80s.
Yeah.
So it was a confusing state, just after the 80s, mid 90s. Then they got it right in the late 90s. They went back.
I will say that Neve Campbell, when she's napping on the couch and gets up, her Walmart Wranglers with white Adidas on are painfully obvious.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, those jeans were definitely $8.
And the XL sweater she was wearing.
Sorry, Carmelo, if you like to wear Wranglers from Walmart.
It's all I own. I wear it under my suit at work.
I did like the sweater that's in the garage.
It's the best sweater.
Oh
ever
yeah,
made,
nippy
ever stitched.
Rose McGowan.
Yes.
So who does kill Rose McGowan?
Hold on.
Who's the killer?
One more thing on wardrobe. I probably did own one or two just as baggy sweatshirts as Matthew Lillard's at the end of the movie.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I'm back.
I mean,
Sorry,
Matthew Lillard to me is definitely the saving grace.
He is the best part of this movie.
Of this movie, he steals every scene he's in. He outshines everybody in this movie. I don't like or really dislike Neve Campbell. And in part 2, I will say we'll cover it, but I mean I will say she got better, and maybe it wasn't her choice. Maybe it was the director's choice, or maybe it was written down in the script. But she literally has the look of shock and awe and surprise. I have like 20 pictures on my phone, and it's just because I couldn't catch them all. It's the phone rings. She doesn't know the killers on the other line of that phone yet, but she's already a phone. David
friends are being murdered. I mean, of course she's going to be surprised.
Yeah.
Well, there's only one. At this point, there was only one, and that was Drew Barrymore, and we all know nobody was friends with Drew Barrymore.
I kept getting the look of hurt and disappointment from her, like when she's in the bathroom stall and she overhears the girls and she's just like,
Yeah,
that's the look I kept sticks with me.
There is a lot of that for sure.
Oh yeah,
and I don't think she's necessarily a bad actress, but I mean, I will go back to what Danny was saying about all these actors and everything that we mentioned, and it all leads back to Scream. I mean, for the most part, that's all they did. Matthew Lillard went out and did a couple of good movies.
13 Ghosts, best he's ever done.
13 Ghosts, probably the best ever done.
Without a paddle.
The one about if you kill your college roommate and you make it look like a suicide, you'll get straight A's. Like it had Melissa Gayheart in it, I think, from Urban Legend. That was a pretty good movie. But I mean, most of these people in here were pretty much trapped in the 90s. They didn't do much after it, and Scream is probably their biggest, besides Courtney Cox, who I think by the time Friends was 3 or 4, I think by the time like they were on like whatever season 7 of 10, she was bringing in like $1 million an episode or something ridiculous. Like she really was the star of this movie, I think, even in 96 over Drew Barrymore.
Well, Gayheart was actually
did a good job too.
Oh, Jamie Kennedy was really good. Jamie Kennedy and Matthew Lillard are the two characters in the movie that I remember.
I just can't stand Jamie Kennedy's teeth, so that's why I like Matthew.
You know that Matthew Lillard got this like he was at the audition studio with his girlfriend, and his girlfriend was auditioning for something else, and they were auditioning for Scream, like the hallway down. The casting director saw Lillard in the hallway and thought that he looked good for Scream, so he actually just went in to audition, and he got cast. So he wasn't even going to audition for it. He was just by chance in the same casting building that his girlfriend was auditioning for some other TV show. So, and he
also Jamie Kennedy and him are also the only two to me that look, I guess, more or less, or act as like kind of believable high school students. Like, I honestly knew a guy that looked almost identical to Matthew Lillard in high school. He was a monster. He was 6'7" or 6'8", but he was just the biggest, goofiest guy you'd ever met, and it kind of fit. And Jamie Kennedy is kind of a small guy, and he plays the movie nerd, and he worked really well. But Skeet Ulrich is not believable to me as a high school student. None of them are believable.
Well,
Rose McGowan.
They were all older than David.
That's a woman, right?
Arquette. Anyways, David Arquette was like one of the youngest guys, but he played the cop, and he was up for Billy to begin with, but then he got sent down. He said he'd rather play Dewey, so they wrote the role according to him, And there's a lot.
I do like David Arquette in this. Some of these actors were jam up. Courtney Cox was jam up as her character because in Friends, from what everybody knows her from, she was very mousy and polite. And in this, she's the ruthless, annoying, mean-spirited, calling her camera guy fat reporter. And it was a twist, and she played it perfect. And David Arquette is perfect for the sweet, super nice sheriff's deputy. It was perfect.
Yeah. I did say something wrong on. I was talking about. I said Sydney's house was the vineyard and the 30 acres, 3 years old. That's Casey's house in the beginning. I already said that. Sydney's house they used was once again in wine country. This beautiful home that was up for sale at the time, and then Wes Craven Production rented it out, paid rental fees, paid money to have it fixed back up after they used it. I don't know what kind of wrong they did to it. But Wes Craven said, we might as well have just bought the whole damn thing for how much money they spent on all that. Yeah, and it is a nice-looking house, and you see sort of the panoramic when she gets home. She checks the mailbox. She comes up the back, up the deck, and I just thought it was funny. You can see a boom mic shadow on the railing when she walks up the stairs. And so, even at this level, they're making these little mistakes here.
Oh, yeah. Of course. It can't be perfect.
I have a talking point that kind of brings a little bit back around to the plot a bit, if you guys don't mind leaving the set for a moment.
Yeah,
please.
When we're in the high school and we've got this attack in the bathroom going on, my question is, at this point, is this a prankster who, like the people who've been running around the school, or is this Billy / Stu again trying to kill Sydney in the bathroom at the high school? It sure seems, threatening, but the killer doesn't have a weapon. And also, how are they going to frame the father for this at this point? So that's where I'm confused.
You're right. Because,
how is Skeet Ulrich going to get laid if he kills her?
Exactly, because he still hasn't gotten laid.
This had to be Stu because Billy was still in the hallway right behind her. So this would have had to been Stu.
Or unless it was one of the other kids that got in trouble.
I think that
with the costume.
I think it was Stu. I think it was a killer. I think that. I think this is about the other question you asked too, Carmelo, where, did they break in? Did they mean to kill her? And then in this point, is that really the killer or was it a prankster? I think in both instances, and it could be argued opposite, that the movie, the way it frames it and the way it shows it, it is what those are. Like in the first instance, he is trying to kill her because he raises the knife up, about to kill her, and then she kicks him, and then in the stall, you have the atmosphere, you have the music, you have the threatening. All signs are pointing me to think that that's the actual killer. Now, I guess you could argue that, they're just doing that, but they want us to think for ourselves, and it could be something different. Or I'm just taking the simple route and saying, that's what they're leading us to believe, so that's what I'm going to believe.
That's why I love this so much.
Yeah, and they make the boots match. All the killers or different characters in the film all wear the same boots to kind of get you confused on who the killer is.
It's a whodunit. That's why I love this so much.
And watching the commentary, I didn't even catch all of the instances where they're allowing you to believe that it's all these other people. And then I watch it with commentary, and Wes Craven's talking, the sergeant or the police chief puts out his cigarette and you see his black boot on. Like when I watched the film the first time through, that didn't even register in my mind. But then as he mentioned, I'm like, I guess, he does have a black boot on, so it could be him. And then Wes Craven was also talking about the timing. Like, look, when, when she gets the call, when she's staying at Rose McGowan's house, Wes Craven said, I made sure and I had Dewey come out after the phone was hung up so you could still potentially think it was him in his room on the telephone, doing it. Mm-hmm. So you couldn't rule him out.
I have a note on that since the first time I saw this movie was so long ago, I have not entertained it being anybody other than Billy Loomis since my first viewing. And on this viewing with that commentary, I paid attention to that as well. And I was shocked how much of a whodunit it was because that element is now completely lost on me.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, you only get it one time when you watch it for the first time. And now it's such an old film that, it's probably hard for anyone to get anymore.
Yeah.
But all right, well, I will move on unless you have more on that topic. I just have more facts.
No, right after that bathroom scene is where we do see Craven, as Christopher mentioned, with the Freddy homage dressed, and that's the actual outfit that was used in the franchise in the '83 version, and
the original Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yes, exactly. That Wes Craven's wearing there, which I know he likes to appear in most of his movies, just a little cameo.
She was supposed to type in or have 34 Elm Street be Sydney's address, but they cut that part out just for time's sake.
Yep.
So that would have been a throwback. Also,
I do have a note. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, speaking of Nightmare on Elm Street, the police chief, played by Joseph Whipp, was also the police sergeant from Nightmare on Elm Street at the end, who notices that Nancy's still inside the house.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Carmel.
Well, I was just going to – I had a point. We were talking about who done it and what the killer's motives would be. And it reminded me of the scene we're more or less coming up on anyway, is the video store scene. Where Randy explains the rule, he doesn't explain the rules, but he starts to talk about the formula of horror movies. And he has this great line where he says, there's always some stupid bullshit reason to kill your girlfriend. And I love that moment. And it's the first time I've noticed it because Stu, that's exactly what Stu is doing, right? Mm-hmm. He's about to kill Tatum and Billy's trying to kill his girlfriend.
Well, and it mentioned that Stu had dated Casey previously, and that would be his motive to kill her. So a girlfriend thing there.
Exactly. Yeah. And Stu, has this little freak out moment, and it's is it because his friend's yelling about murder, or is it because he just got called out on how lame ass his motives are? And it just works really well. I really dig that moment.
I didn't look at it from that perspective, because they are the killers, they're standing right there, and here is the video store guy just saying how dumb it is.
Of course, you don't get that perspective until after you know that the killer is, after you've seen it, and then think back. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh wait, okay, that all makes sense now. That's why this is one that you can watch again and again, and you kind of get more of the whodunit and the little things, the little clues they place, the boots, the girlfriend, they're talking about the girlfriend, and those little scenes there.
Yeah, you'll catch more.
Yeah, for sure.
Dewey's desk. The art department had a holiday with that one, is what Craven said, and I didn't notice that too until I saw the commentary.
He just got stabbed in the back.
I mean, Dewey's desk.
Oh, I think it's his death.
No.
His desk.
Yeah, his desk. Yes.
Yeah.
They had a hat with boobs and handcuffs.
Yeah, they had a Dunkin' Donuts bag. They had a sticker for a cop comic on his computer. If you just take a second and look at it when they go to the wide shot, it just looks like a little kid's desk or something.
Well, that's kind of what his character was, Rose McGowan's his sister, and always bosses him around, I'm working, this is my job, you can't talk to me that way. So he was kind of that nerdy kid cop, trying to make his first his first arrest and this, and following these kids and trying to catch the killer. So that desk is, that's him.
The the guy who, the camera guy, Gale's camera guy, also played the morgue attendant in Nightmare 7.
Oh, yeah, I thought I recognized him.
I have Healdsbury, California written down. Why? Oh, it's because that's where that final house was,
That's
believe.
where Stu's house is, right?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah. I have it written down here, that must be why.
That's where the whole second act takes place. It's 45 minutes of the very end of the movie there.
I didn't write it down, but now that you're mentioning that, it was sort of interesting that in the script it was scene 118 or something that took place at that house, and so since they were on that location for so long and they got done, they all had shirts made that said, "I survived scene 118."
Yeah. Well, it was the end scene was at the house was 42 minutes long. It was shot over a course of 21 days, and from that time, sun, it was all shot at night, so they had to wait for for it to get dark, and then after it wrapped, they made that "I survived scene 118" because that's what the scene was.
Yeah, they mentioned it being very cold.
Yeah,
just so hard shooting at night.
Yeah.
Yep, it's a horror movie.
Longest
So
night in horror history, people were saying.
it's a horror movie, so it's going to be at night and it's going to be cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they mentioned in the commentary that's like the one horror trope they don't subvert, and it got me wondering: can you possibly have done a horror movie in the daylight? Like, doesn't it? I don't know. Like, it might actually
It has
have
been done.
Has
It
it?
has been done.
It hasn't been done well.
I mean, Texas
where
Chainsaw
has it
has a
been
lot.
done?
Texas Chainsaw, the original, there's a lot
Where
of
Christopher?
day shots.
What movie has it been done with?
Midsummer that just came out recently. That was.
Oh yeah, all right.
Okay.
Did you watch that, Carmelo?
No, I haven't seen it on the recommendation of my younger brother, who insisted it was awful.
I heard a lot of good things about it, but did you watch it, Rob?
No, on the recommendation from Carmelo, like from his brother.
I see. I heard it was good, but then I heard mixed things about it.
I didn't
Anyways.
just bail. Carmelo sent me a long text describing why I should not watch it, and I agreed. and said, okie dokie, I'll go watch something else.
I guess speaking of movies, newer movies, maybe like Midsummer, a question that came up in the commentary that I thought was a good discussion question is, what is postmodern horror? It got me thinking. Do you guys have any thoughts?
I have
Is it a question worth asking?
No fucking idea what postmodern horror
I mean, yeah, that's I don't know.
Is it the same as meta? Are we, when we're talking about things that are meta, are they postmodern,
Like
or
this.
is it just?
How is this meta? Like this, I know Rob said that jokingly, but
Well, it's meta because it knows about horror movies and it knows about the rules.
Yeah, it
of
talks
horror
about horror and it kind of.
It's meta in the way that like horror movies exist in this movie.
okay.
Yeah, they talk about Halloween.
I mean, you know, because
Nightmare on
like
Elm Street.
in Friday the 13th, they don't talk about Halloween. Halloween doesn't talk about Friday the 13th. You know, I mean, there are elements of there are bad people out there. Bad things can happen to you,
Yeah.
but it's this. It's like, you know, that's why. And it's not being. I'm not being mean or trying to be mean saying it, but I mean that's why Scary Movie, the spoof movie. I mean, it wrote itself because this movie has so much of it in it. You know, that Wes Carpenter.
Yeah.
Or, you know, the janitor is, I didn't even know that was Wes Craven as the janitor, but, you know, that goes to it as well. You know, his name's Fred, and he's wearing the sweater, and this movie is just piled up with it.
Well,
like, you know,
even when like Randy says, you know, here are the horror film rules, you know, you will not survive.
yeah, that's probably the most meta
if you
thing
have
about it
sex.
is here are the rules.
Yeah,
and this
you will
is
not
how
survive if you drink or do drugs. Yeah.
And I don't want to push us too far ahead, but I think we're getting there anyway. Is right after this party scene is where, you know, Billy and Stu reveal who they are and reveal their motives or lack of motives. And
Billy Loomis,
which is
right, and
with Sam Loomis and
Ouch, boy.
well,
yes,
the Sam Loomis in obviously Halloween, and then there was another Loomis, Sam Loomis in what else? What
Did you
else
say
was there?
Sam?
Yeah, that's Dr. Loomis's first name.
Dr. Sam Loomis.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Dr. Samuel Loomis.
Samuel Loomis. But there's another Sam Loomis in another movie, right?
You're thinking of Annie. Isn't the actress's real name Loomis?
I think so.
In Halloween?
Yeah. That's right.
But the point I was trying to make before is that in that moment when Billy explains, you know, about how, you know, movies don't create psychos, movies make the psychos more creative. And that cool moment is where the satire in this movie and the kind of tongue-in-cheek self-awareness of this movie becomes the entire point of the movie. And that's something Wes Craven says in the commentary. But it's neat because what it does is it makes all this other stuff is just, it could just be the creators like masturbating into how smart they are, right? Look how much we know about horror. Isn't it great? Isn't it clever? But it becomes clever because it's the point of the whole movie is that these two guys are influenced by horror to this point.
You will not survive if you say, I'll be right back. I'll be right back. Oh, I love Lillard.
Yeah, and this being something that could actually really happen, a couple horror fans just lose it and go on a killing spree.
Exactly.
Nailed
of
it.
horror movies.
Yeah, it's pretty genius.
I think Scream sparked, after it was released, it did spark a lot more real world like violence and murders. That's what I was reading here, at least. But
That's all bullshit.
yeah, that's what they say.
What is not bullshit is that Scream did spark the like MTV horror movie.
Yeah,
It did. It sparked the I Know What You Did Last Summers, which I will take Scream over those.
Urban Legends.
I will not
Yes.
take Nev Campbell over Jennifer Love Hewitt, but I will take
me neither.
Scream over I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yes.
And it sparked Urban Legend, and it sparked like Dead Man's Curve, and it sparked. I mean, like the list goes on and on and on and on and on. My biggest contention with Scream is that it saved horror in the 90s, and I don't. I mean, there was 50 slasher movies made in the 90s. In the 90s, we had multiples of everything. We had, I think, 2 Halloweens. We had Child's Play. We had Friday the 13th. We had Halloween.
But they were all garbage.
Yeah, I think the more correct term.
But I just, and my thing is, I just don't think it necessarily saved like horror in the 90s. I just think it was a big win. I just think it was a big win as a movie in the 90s. I mean, Carmelo asked about the postmodern horror. In my opinion, if you want to say like the first, I guess, big hit postmodern meta horror movie was A New Nightmare. And I actually love A New Nightmare. I'm not a big Freddy fan. And I think they replicated it with this, but they added so much more pop culture to it. And they tried to create, or they did create, a new fan base. Instead of all the people going back to watch the garbage part 5, 6, and 7s of these classic 70s and 80s movies, they just created a new franchise, and it was a good franchise, but I don't necessarily think that it saved like horror. I just think it was a really big hit, and it created
Very fresh, yeah.
I think
it's a new franchise. It's not Freddy, Jason, or blah blah blah. But it runs the exact same program. It's just a different killer.
I think that you can argue that maybe you shouldn't say saved, but you should say it brought a new audience to horror.
A new No.
It brought a new audience to horror because
I think it brought a big female.
Like my
fan
wife,
base to horror.
my wife doesn't like horror, but she likes Scream. Same with Savannah loves Scream. And I don't even know if Carmella's wife likes horror or not, but she likes Scream. You know,
she actually does. But I see your point though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, this is still the highest grossing slash movie of all time. Halloween 2018 beat it, but with the inflation, this was 20 some years ago. This still tops it as grossing status too.
Let me just shotgun some of the rest of my list here because we're getting up on time, and that doesn't mean we have to stop after that. I just want to shotgun it out, and then we can have some more awesome discussions.
Just shotgun away.
Just because some of these, as we start to discuss things, feel almost irrelevant to spout out random facts,
Sure. Fire away.
Okay, let's see here. So, newscasters were known newscasters in Northern California, so that brought some realism to it. The principal's death, the Fonz's death,
Henry Winkler,
was an afterthought added by Bob Weinstein, saying, "Hey, nothing happens for like 30 minutes. Someone needs to die."
And his coat.
Then they need to empty out the house to just have a few people left there at the house with the killer.
Yeah, and that was another thing. Hey, how do we get people out of this house at the end? And it was, someone calls and tells them the principal's strung up. Let's go see him.
I think it's another good example of being creative and working with your constraints. They were told they had to kill somebody, but it solved this other problem they had, and that's what makes it feel organic then in the movie instead of it just being a random death.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You see the Fonz's coat in his closet, by the way, too. His leather coat.
Nice.
Oh.
Yeah.
The old Stu's house, the old house, it was built by 2 people that died within a month of each other, old people, and then their house was left to the kids, and so the kids didn't really know what to do with it, and And it was easy pickings for Wes Craven to say, hey, rent this out to us.
Hell yeah.
Neve Campbell touches her hair a lot, and Wes Craven noticed that in the editing room.
And Reese Witherspoon turned the role down because she thought it was too much of a B horror movie. She screwed up.
The throwing of the beer by Rose McGowan at the stuntman in the ghost costume was a one-take shot thing. They only had a couple shots, one take to get that right. I guess, I don't know why. Limited on beers?
Party foul.
Yeah, and that was Dane Farwell.
Oh, the stuntman?
Yeah.
Let's see. The van was supposed to flip over when it veers off the road, and so it was a botched stunt that actually ended up being really effective because they liked how it just sort of clunked right into the tree. And they were all concerned for the woman's safety, who is the stunt woman, but she was just fine. Just got right out.
Yeah, she was wearing a 5-point safety harness.
Yeah.
The older Ford van made it seem like the movie was a little bit older, too, which is kind of cool.
Courtney Cox kept giggling when she would fall on David Arquette at the end there when she's kicked backwards.
They were in love.
Had to do like 10 takes.
They obviously fell in love during this movie and married after, and got divorced in 2013.
Yeah, and David Arquette ad-libs after they kiss, and she looks over and says, "That what you've been looking for?" And he's like, "Oh, my whole life."
Yeah,
which came out to be true because they got married.
Speaking of ad-libs, Stu improvised the phone line when Billy throws the phone at him. It sort of stuck to his hand, so it hit him in the back instead of
hit me with a phone, you dick.
Instead of falling on the counter. And then, don't you love how Scotty just cuts me off all the time?
I'm just
yes,
all the time. And then someone said I talk over him.
Yeah,
but that's not the case.
You cut me off all the time too. Aaron Garcia can vouch for me on that.
No. Throws the phone at him, sticks to his hand, so it wasn't supposed to hit him. He improvised that line, and then he also improvised the mom and dad line. You're going to be so pissed off. The umbrella. Yeah, go ahead.
And that when the gun's missing, Houston, we have a problem. That was also ad-lib.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
When Skeet gets stabbed with the umbrella, he had open heart surgery when he was 10 years old. Has a little wire in his chest that excruciating pain when you touch it just right. And of course, the tip of the umbrella just hit that one spot. And so they say his reaction is pretty genuine when he gets hit with that umbrella.
Didn't he have to wear like a vest?
Well, he wore some padding, but I guess still got him.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah, they missed the padding.
Yeah. They did a shot at the end of the movie. You see that Dewey's alive. He's being strolled away. They didn't really plan on having that, but Wes just got the shot just in case Dewey was really liked by the audiences, and he was, and they kept it in there. I think there was one other one I had, but no, that's... I was just wanted to make a comment on how this movie sort of burned in my memory because I watched it at a young age, and I saw previews for it on TV when it started coming out, and I just those moments in the I don't know, Rob, if you saw previews when it came out, but burned in my mind is what's his name in the video store yelling, "Everyone's a suspect."
Randy.
And then
yes, I do remember that.
And then Dewey with a flash on his face going, "You aren't scared, are you?"
Oh yeah, that was a preview.
Heavily used both of those in the previews, both of those shots.
I remember that.
So yeah.
Yeah, there's only one part in the whole movie where Ghostface is played by one of the actors, Skeet Ulrich, when he's standing behind Randy when he's watching the film. That's Skeet and not the stuntman.
Ah, okay. Makes sense. Just weird things stick with you when you're a kid and you watch some, you know? So watching this again, it was like Neve Campbell's mannerisms that I recalled from when I was 13 years old or something. I don't even know why. It's like how she keeps on, what is it? She has that flirty look. She always starts to talk, then doesn't, and then talks. I don't know if that makes any sense. Like, she does that, and then she does this thing with her lips. I don't know. It's really the mannerisms. Oh, yeah. I was like, oh, I remember that.
I thought she was really hot back in the day, but I definitely was more of a Jennifer Love Hewitt.
She's not looking as hot as I remembered her looking in this movie. That's all right.
She's looking good.
Cool. So, closing thoughts?
No, I like the there's always the throwback of cellular. Go and grab my cellular, and then Sharon Stone being a slut. I didn't know Sharon Stone was a slut. That obviously Sharon Stone's not talked about a lot anymore. You don't call your cell phone a cellular. So I just love the old 90s talking in this too. Just like the dialogue brings you back.
Christopher, closing thoughts on Scream?
Scream. I love it. It's a great movie. Brings a fresh take or a fresh series that comes out in the 90s. It was amazing. Yeah.
Mello?
I think Scream is one of those movies that anytime I see it on, I watch it. I just really, really like it. And I didn't even realize how much until we talked about covering it. I just thought it was one of my favorite horror movies. And then I realized, just how ready I was to rewatch it. So kudos to Scream.
Yeah, I was very much ready to watch it again, and it was nice. And there's so much more. I like so much more, but I mean, this is one of those movies that just has tons of stuff where we can't cover it all in an hour.
Robert,
it has a lot of rewatch value.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Robinson Crusoe.
That doesn't even fit.
Yeah, it does. Robinson.
That's more of a 1700. No, we're the 90s here.
Is it Exorcist Heretic bad? I mean, no.
Nothing.
What are you talking about?
Nothing is Exorcist Heretic bad.
I understand why people really like this movie, and I gotta say, I give it like 3.5 out of 5 stars. It's something you could rewatch. I've rewatched it I don't know how many times. It just, for me, it doesn't blow my mind, and it doesn't really, honestly, it doesn't give me any warm fuzzies for nostalgia, and it didn't really hold up for me when I first saw it when I was 11 or 12 or whatever, and it's I'm not angry that it exists. To me, it's just not iconic. Ghostface is not iconic to me. It's not. Mm-hmm. I can sit here and say that Friday the 13th Part 5 is a piece of crap, and it is, in my opinion. But I will watch it. But I will watch it because I love Jason, even though he's not in it. I love the hockey mask. I love that character. I love aimless teens getting butchered in the woods naked, and this didn't have any. Yeah, exactly. And this just doesn't have really any of that for me. Part 2, I actually enjoyed a lot more than I thought I would because I'd never seen it. But Part 1, like the Neve Campbell doesn't do anything for me as the hero. She, like you said, she just looks angry and just so upset about something all the time. and Rose McGowan, I liked her character more than they're just the list of characters that I liked more than the ones that they're having you focus on. I mean, it's pretty much it just goes I like Dewey, I like all these other ones, but I don't really I don't the main character and the main plot of, your mommy did this to my daddy and that made my mommy leave. Mm-hmm. It just didn't really stick to me. I actually liked the whole Randy thing. You don't need an excuse to kill somebody. They should have just ran with that. Mm-hmm. You don't need an excuse to do this. We just want to cause absolute chaos. But I do understand why people like it. Like I said, I mean, I'll probably watch it again, but it's not a ultimate favorite of mine.
All right, guys. Well, that wraps up Scream. We'll be talking about Scream 2 next week. Let's move on to our final segment.
What did you watch?
Ooh. Whoa, that was nice.
Yeah.
Our honored guest, Christopher Elswick, did you watch anything interesting this week?
Yes, I watched the Banana Splits.
Oh, yes, I need to watch that.
Everybody's telling me to watch that.
Me too.
I haven't seen it.
What do you think?
It's very good. It's very good. Good slasher. I mean, you can't really expect it to be no outstanding performances or anything, but it's a good slasher flick.
Nice. I'll have to check it out.
Carmelo, anything?
You know what? I've been watching The Boys on Netflix or not Netflix, Amazon Prime, and I'm really enjoying it. gives me weird feelings though, because it's all about how much superheroes suck, and I love superheroes. So some of it's actually really horrible, and the only way I'm getting through it is by telling myself it's about super villains who just look like superheroes.
Nice.
That sounds interesting. I may have to check that out.
Yeah, you might like.
This sounds good.
It's pretty brutal.
Scotty?
I watched Bad Times at the El Royale. It was good. I liked it. It was some twists and turns and some good characters. A few little things I didn't like about it, but I don't have to go into that. But overall, I would recommend it.
If Scotty says there's a few little things he didn't like because he's so damn nice, that movie was terrible.
Yeah. No, there was just a couple things I wish would have happened earlier. But overall, I think
Scotty wanted to see. Scotty wanted to see Thor's Rockin' Bod earlier. What the fuck, Chris Hemsworth?
I thought Chris Hemsworth, his character came in a little late, and I wish I would have known more about him and his gang and like the backstory of that. But the movie's already like almost 3 hours long, so they just couldn't touch on all of it. But overall, I think you guys would like it.
Okay.
Rob?
I went to the movie theater to see the motion pictures, and I saw Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. And
that was good. I liked it.
I loved Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark to me is the perfect. I mean, it's inspired me. The whole house smells like pumpkin spice. I've got candles. It is the perfect seasonal. Like how, I mean, it's not really, I can't really say it's a horror movie. I mean, it is. It's a ghost story. It's supernatural. Yeah, and it's a perfect PG-13 movie. They did it right. There were some really good scares. The story was very interesting. It was compelling. It was good. The characters, the actors, everything was good about it. And it is like the perfect Halloween movie. It's not. It's almost like an anthology because different things happen to different people. But like, I'm not going to put it up there with Trick or Treat. Trick or Treat is the ultimate Halloween movie, but I would watch it right alongside Trick or Treat. It's just an awesome, spooky, fun movie.
All right. I watched Inglourious Bastards. Just rewatched that. It was good.
Why? Why would you do that?
It's a good movie. You don't like it?
I don't like Quentin Tarantino.
You're so stupid. You just decide you don't like someone, and then even if they put out good work, you still don't like them.
I like the first half. I like the first half of Inglourious Bastards.
What?
The first half of Inglourious Bastards is good. The second half is just Quentin Tarantino jerking himself off with dialogue.
It's all interesting. Like, it's all the twists and turns. Just never mind.
Oh, yeah, it is Quentin Tarantino. Good.
I think Brad Pitt does awesome, and I like Eli Roth in it.
Yeah.
I love the beginning with Brad Pitt and Eli Roth, the Bear Jew.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Then I watched Immortal Engines on HBO. It was pretty good. It's not bad.
What is that about?
That's that one where they have like big traveling cities that like eat smaller cities and did you watch previews for it? It has like Hugo Weaving as the bad guy, Agent Smith, and yeah.
I haven't seen. It sounds good.
It's like post-apocalyptic. Like they have historical artifacts. It's like a cracked iPhone, and yeah, it's pretty good. You should watch it.
If I'm watching post-apocalyptic, if I'm watching post-apocalypse, it's just me and Tom Hardy and Mad Max.
Oh, I love Tom.
Oh yes,
love Tom.
Oh,
Hardy.
Yes.
I love that fucking movie.
What?
That movie.
What?
How do you?
Dude, action-packed. Action-packed.
What? Tell me one thing wrong with Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah,
Just
we're all waiting.
one?
Yeah, just one.
Well, since we're coming up to the end of our time here, I'll save most of my complaints for another episode. But that movie is just like an incoherent mess, and it makes me feel sad just to watch it.
Oh my god!
Oh my goodness!
But it's just action-packed. You don't need any plots or anything.
I was the biggest advocate against Ted Hardy being in that because Mel Brooks could still, or not Mel Brooks, Mel Gibson could still pull it off after watching Bloodfather. I'm sorry. Mad Max with Ted Hardy is absolutely like it is the closest thing to a perfect movie.
What?
All right, we'll have to table this because I love it.
I will
Yeah,
even
we're gonna
put it
save this for
above
one
The
of-
Postman and Waterworld. That's where that movie is for me.
So one of the things we're going to roll out in the new Patreon is a special live episode once a month that where Rob and I will fight each other about things like this, and you can participate. So keep an eye out for that.
Yes.
And if me and Danny happen to, which we usually are, the peacemakers.
No, Scotty and Danny are the referees.
Yeah,
they're going to referee us.
We're the referees.
Oh man.
No, they'll be
Officiating.
in on it too. I just it's just Rob that I really want a piece of.
Yeah. Me and Danny have picked apart Rob a few times already.
That movie is so good. You know what? I'm gonna rent it again.
I own it on Blu-ray.
We all agree on that movie.
Money.
All right, I'm done. I'm done with this episode.
I got it on Blu-ray. Now I want to watch Bloodfather. Rob, I've never seen that. Rob just mentioned
It's so good. Mel Gibson and William H. Macy, and Mel Gibson is like turned up to 11.
I'm watching it
Is
tonight.
Crazy.
Is that brand new?
Oh,
I'm watching it
it's
tonight.
like 3 or 4 years old, I think. But I mean, it's new. But I think it's on Prime.
I just love Gibson.
All right, I'm gonna check it out.
He's one of my favorites.
All right, we're over, of
Anyways.
course. So we'll wrap this thing up. Thank you, Christopher, for joining us.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I had a great time. If you haven't, check out my new show on YouTube at Slinky's Liquor Pond and Video.
Yes, and where is that? Do you want to tell them anywhere else to follow you, or is that good enough? Just check him out there.
Yeah, just check me out on YouTube for now.
All right.
Awesome.
Slinky's Liquor and Pond.
Great.
Check it out. Follow us at Danny Bonin, at Scotty Bonin, at O'Neilio with 4 O's, at Chimera's Comics. And make sure you get your memes in for next week's Horror Halftime. Use the hashtag Horror Halftime and tag us on social media as you submit those. Also, please go rate and review us on iTunes. That would be awesome. Well, now it's called Apple Podcasts, I think. So,
Same thing.
Yeah, I think it is now Apple Podcasts.
yeah. Do that. Subscribe on YouTube, wherever we're at. Just follow us. That will help a lot. And as Carmelo mentioned already, we're in the throes of revamping Patreon, so get in early. Go to patreon.com/cultclassichorror, and we'll take care of you guys there, and you can support what we're doing. So,
Yeah.
all right, thanks, guys. We'll catch you next week.
See you for Scream 2.
Stay groovy.
Later, guys.
Later.
Don't you blame the movies. Movies don't create psychos. Movies make psychos more creative.
Oh, yes. There will be blood.